G'day, welcome back. Today we're doing rear brakes and discs, rotors, whatever you call them, on a 2012 Ford Mondeo station wagon. It's a 2-litre turbo diesel, 163 horsepower, whatever it is. Quite a big wagon, quite heavy, so the discs are pretty big. 302mm in the rear, which is, that's what she said, but pretty big disc. So we're going to make sure we put them on right and do a good job. These, just looking at my service book, the rear pads were actually changed at 87,000 kilometres 2 years ago, pretty much, well, 14th of the 10th, 2 years ago and a week. They also changed the brake fluid as well then, so these have lasted really, like 50,000 kilometres. I think I'm pushing 139, just over 50,000 kilometres these rear pads have lasted. Looks like the discs are original, they've got a nice lip on the edge, but yeah, we'll have a look at all that. So next I'll show you the new parts, and then we'll get the car in and work some magic. Right, so I ended up with a Mintex, all Mintex bits, TMD friction. I think they make Ferodo and a few other brands, but decent quality. There are the pads. The pads come with new bolts as well, so that's, I like that about this kit. It comes with all the bolts and everything. Also ordered the hardware kit. We don't have much rust in New Zealand, but I noticed the rear pads, they haven't worn evenly between the two sides, so I thought, well, let's give it a good chance to fix whatever issue there is there. Hopefully it's not a caliper, but it's unlikely. We got our discs, like I said, 302mm, they're non-vented, which is kind of crazy. What more can you say about a rotor? Should be decent quality. I've used Mintex before and they've been all good, so we'll see how these go on. First up, we'll get the wheel off. 19mm wheel nuts on these. I think there's actually a few different variations depending on what wheels you got, but these are two-piece nuts. There's different torque specs depending on what wheel nuts you got. So refer to your owner's manual. Right, so there are the rear calipers. Also got the handbrake lever, handbrake axe on the pads. There's no separate drums, even though it looks like there's plenty of room to have them, but no. Just pads, disc, a handbrake, Ujima flip. So first up we got the two 30mm caliper bolts, which should not be too tight, but a wee bit tight. As soon as you crack them, then the caliper slide pin also starts to move, so you put a 15mm on there, you can get them off. So you'll see this top bolt, doesn't actually clear the handbrake cable. So technically you should really take that off to change it out with a new screw bolt. But that's too hard, so I'm just going to reuse that bolt. So people reuse bolts on calipers all the time. It's going to be fine. But technically you should change it. It comes with a new bolt to do that, so you know. Yeah, bolt out. You should be able to wrest the caliper off. Now, because you've got the handbrake piston on the caliper, you can't just push it back into the body. You've got to actually turn it once you push it, so it's a bit harder than your average front brake where you can just lever the piston back in a little bit and take it off. You've got to kind of wrestle with it a little bit to get it off, but no biggies, not too much hassle. Now it's going to rest on the handbrake cable, it's not resting on the brake hose there. So we've got a T50 bolt that holds the disc on, and that would have been much easier to undo this with the handbrake on and the wheels off before you started anything else, but I didn't do that, so I'll do it the alternative method by holding it against the wheel studs and break it off. It's not overly tight, and again, we don't have much rust here, so. And it's a new car. Anything older, you probably have to use some different methods to get that one off. So just make sure that's loose at the moment. And we'll see if we can get our pads out. Wow, that was worse than the other side. I've already done one side, and just so I can kind of get out of the way, but yeah, it's pretty average, isn't it? So again, I guess this car was sat at the auctions for a couple of months, so maybe they left the handbrake on, and when they went to move it, the pads disintegrated, but that's not ideal, is it? You're losing like 15% of your braking area. But well, at least we're putting new ones on. And the inner pad's fine. Same on the other side. Both outer pads had this devastation, we'll call it. The inner pads were pretty good. Still had some. Well, still got a bit of life in them on that one side, but these other ones are toast. Next up, there are the two 15mm caliper carrier bolts. Yeah, they're about 110 Newton meters they're tied into, so a little bit of force to get them off. They shouldn't be too bad, eh? She's a wee bit tight. There we go. Oh yeah, those two. What were they? 15mm bolts. 250 Torx. Caliper carry out the way and we can pull the disc off. Inner surface not too bad, the surface isn't actually too bad on these discs. They're kind of, there's a fair bit of a lip on there though, so yeah, they're going. Got those new ones. And here's the caliper carriers that's come off, you see they're definitely worth getting the new brake hardware. These are pretty dirty. Those slide pins move okay, but I'm going to re-grease them anyway once we're up there. So next we'll get this wee fella ready to go back on. So here's our carrier. One of these has already come off, pretty munted. Pull the other one off, just as munted, then we'll I'm going to clean up all this surface. So what I do is just use this big thing. So don't breathe in any dust. One side done. Yeah. A little bit of brake clean, give it a wipe. Well, next up we're going to clean the pins. Probably not essential, these are working pretty well, but just given how those pads have worn, I just want to make sure everything's perfect. So we'll wipe off the old grease. And up to you what you use for this, just don't use anything that's going to damage rubber. I'm using red rubber grease. Silicone paste is pretty common, but can't get hold of that, so we go for this stuff. You don't need a lot. Just lube up your shaft nicely, get it ready for action. Pop it back in. Make sure you've got some good in and out action going on. This one's a bit grubby. Moved up. Again, don't need much. Pop them back on. Job done. Right, next we've got our new caliper hardware. I'll put all the part numbers and junk in the description. These just clip in like that, same on the other side. They're kind of spring fit, so shouldn't fall off again. There we go, so that's now ready to go back on the car. We'll put some copper grease and stuff on there when we put the pads in, but keep it clean whilst we do this bit. And we're away. Right, next we need to wind back the calipers. Now these turn back clockwise, and only clockwise, and you've got to put pressure on them whilst you wind them back in. Now obviously there's special tools you can get to do this. I ordered one, but it's not here in time, and I didn't fancy driving on these pads anymore, so you can do it without a special tool. Just need a bit more muscle, but that's fine. We've got plenty of muscle in this place. So the way I do it, I'll take the dust cap off the old, watch out for this bee, Aussie bee. Then also crack the bleeder and attach a drain pan. It's 11mm bleeder. But as always, the handbrake cable's in the way, so I suppose ideally you should do the job properly. it's loose, we'll attach our bleeder. I'm changing the fluid now anyway, so I'm not too worried about introducing air into the system or anything, because it's all going to get bled out anyway. The next up, you need a pair of pliers like this. As I say, one other quick tip. Because you'll be winding this piston back under the boot, it's a good idea to clean the exposed bit of the piston. Can't remember who had that as a tip recently, or whether it's Jim the car guy or the car doctor or Erico or someone, but someone did this and it seemed like a good idea. Have a nice clean surface you're retracting rather than a tatty mess. So again, got our pliers. We'll start turning and twisting. Bloody bee. Hopefully that'll do. Tighten up the bleeder. Snug it up for now, just in case we do forget, but we're not going to because we're closed. Okay, next step is to tidy up the hub. You want a nice clean surface for your disc to go on. Feels pretty flat. So it's pretty important, especially with big discs like this. So 300mm, in my experience, is a pretty huge disc. And obviously if it doesn't sit on there flat, by the time you get up to the top of the disc, it's no longer straight. You end up with disc thickness variation and pulsation and all sorts, where the thing's not doing its job properly. So yeah, we want to do it right, do it once. Rear discs and pads should last a little while, 2 years. These ones have lasted, the genuine Ford ones, so we'll see what life we get out of these. These ones, this car's not going to be doing much sitting around, it gets used pretty constantly, so we shouldn't have the same issue, but you never know, eh? So next up, our new disc. Again, needs cleaning before we stick it on, so brake clean to get the oily protectant off. Do that on both sides. Alright, then we can whack it on. Remember, you got your screw hole there. Screw on. I'm just going to put a little bit of copper grease on because I don't want to be fighting with that ever again. I didn't have to fight with it this time, but we'll make sure it's not a problem for next time. Just drop it on the floor. Nice and tight. I'm sure there's a torque spec, but nice and tight works for me. And we'll whack our nicely prepared caliper carrier back on. these ones are 110 Newton meters, which is about 80 foot-pounds. Pounds-feet, foot-pounds. Potato, potato. There we go, good and tight. Backstop pads, and the same on both sides. So what I'm going to do is just grease up wherever metal touches metal. So on these ears here, I put some copper grease. Again, use whatever brake lubricant you like using. Not too much, not too little. Right, now this front pad, you've got to kind of move it inside of the carrier there, and it'll slide right in. Right, now on this other pad, I'm also going to put grease on where the piston contacts the pad, but I'm not going to put it on until I've actually got the pad in the car, so I don't end up covering everything with grease. Now we haven't actually retracted that piston enough, so we'll have to give that a wee tweak. Now, it's definitely easier with a proper tool as always, but what are you going to do about it? Pretty close. Still pretty close. Right, there we go. She's on. We'll tighten up the bleed nipple for the moment. Come back and bleed them. And again, we're not going to replace the top one, we'll replace the bottom one. These go to 35 Newton meters. And you might just have to hold the caliper pin as you whiz it up. on our 35 pound-foot, Newton meters. Somewhere around click. Got the bottom one we can do properly. Still need to hold it. There you go. We've torqued up our big nuts, tightened our little ones. Still going to bleed the brakes, so they're closed, but they're not torqued to spec yet. So I'll just press the pedal a few times, make sure I've got a good pedal, and then I'll bleed some juice out. Could just try the handbrake whilst we're here. Handbrake works. Well, next we're going to torque our nuts. Unfortunately my 3/8 torque wrench only goes up to 81 foot-pounds, and these are torqued to 100 foot-pounds, so I'll do it in two passes. Get them all up to 81. And to finish up, we'll use our old school bendy beam one, which is great apart from you can't actually see what number you've hit. I made that 100 foot-pounds as close as we're going to get, but one day I'll get a 1/2 inch one, or if Teng want to start sponsoring me they can send me a 1/2 inch one. But until then we'll use this. They're tight anyway, they're not going to come off, but they're not too tight. They're not going to lead to a 4-video series of how tight your wheel nuts are, but we'll stick with that. One last job to do. there we go, all done. See, I've no idea what causes pads to wear like that. My only idea is the handbrake's been left on and it's socket out. Yeah, Steve, yep, no idea. Jerry Bullshit Corner, probably not good for another 20,000. Broke pads was another comment on Instagram just now, but yeah, this is how it is. All nice and new in there. Should be good for a while. Like, subscribe, thanks for watching, we'll see you in the next one.